mirror knitting. You might be wondering, what am I talking about with mirror knitting? And believe it or not, I knit this entire stocking so far using mirror knitting. There are a few reasons why I am making a stocking. So the first one is today is St. Nicholas Day, and how I celebrated growing up is that the night before December 6th, so on the 5th, we would clean and shine our shoes and put them out on the door, and St. Nicholas would come by in the night, and if you had nice shiny clean shoes, he would fill it with gold, chocolate gold though, not real gold, like coins if you've ever seen them. I think they're in the grocery stores around here. I've seen them and that always brings back those memories for me. In the US that's less of a thing, but what's more common that I've noticed is hanging stockings. This is not something I ever did growing up, but I thought it would be super cute to kind of combine the two traditions, and I think hanging stockings and having that filled with gifts also comes from the history of St. Nicholas. It's just done on a different day. So anyway, we're mashing it together in the spirit of cozy crafty fun, and this will be a stocking for Nutella. The other reason is that this stocking is from a 1950s pattern, specifically I think 1957, 58, because of some details in the pattern we'll go over later. And it is constructed really, really weirdly. You might have wondered, like, I am knitting this flat, and yes, it is knit flat up until a certain part of the foot, so I thought the construction was interesting to go over, and the last bit is that I thought it would be a great chance to learn how to do mirror knitting. But first, before I dive into all of that, I really want hot chocolate this evening, and I managed to find something I completely forgot about in my pantry, and I'm very excited to try it out. So first, let's make ourselves a hot chocolate. Let's open the scented candle of the day, and then we can get into the knitting. I am once again using my wonderful Knitting Keeps Me From Unraveling mug, and I found this in my pantry, which is a chocolate pumpkin that you put in a hot beverage, or mostly hot milk, and watch it dissolve to create hot chocolate. So here we go. All right, and today's candle, we are on day number 3. We have lilac. Oh, that smells really nice. Not too overpowering, just like a lovely lilac blossom. So let me get those lit and we can go ahead and start knitting, and I can tell you a little bit more about the stocking. Oh, that is really good. Oh. And it's been a while since I've had a hot chocolate. Back to our stocking knitting. So here's this piece so far. If you are familiar with knitting, then you'll know that there's typically generally 2 ways of constructing a piece, either by knitting it flat or by knitting it in the round. And one of the perks of knitting something in the round is that you don't have to flip your piece over. So as an example, right now I am on a knit row. So I would take this yarn and I would knit from the right to the left until I'm at the end, and then it's time for me to knit the row back in the opposite direction. And typically what I would do is I would then flip my piece over, and then I would purl again from right to left. So I'm always knitting from right to left. However, mirror knitting means that when you're working on a piece flat, it means that you are not flipping your piece over, and you are actually changing the direction in which you knit. So I would do knit from right to left, keep the piece the same, and then knit again from left to right. That's mirror knitting. I did learn how to do it off camera, but I did manage to find a method that works really well for the way that I knit. I didn't see this particular method be taught anywhere in particular, so I don't know if my style of mirror knitting has a name. If it does, please let me know. I think the way that I came up with it was that I kind of used the method that I saw for Norwegian purling together with how I like to hold my yarn and tensioning and things. So it's a little bit strange, but this is how I do it. So I'm actually at the point now in my stocking to work on the InStep, so I'm gonna have to put some stitches on holders and things, so let me do that first, and then I'll show you how I mirror knit. We're now going to be working on the InStep, and I'll show you what typical knitting looks like in terms of working flat versus what mirror knitting looks like. So first we're just going to knit from right to left as usual across the row. Now keep in mind that I knit continental, so this might look familiar to a lot of you, but it also might look very different to many of you who knit maybe Portuguese style, or Peruvian style, English style, cottage. There's many different ways to knit, so this is just one of the many ways that you can do this. All right, we've just reached the end of the row. Now typically when I'm in this knitting position, what I would now do, because I want to knit stockinette and flat, is I would turn my whole work around like this, reset my hands, and start knitting in a purl all the way back across the row. However, in mirror knitting, you don't have to do any of that, and all you do is you stay in this position, and then this is how I mirror knit. It might be a little convoluted, but like I said, I took inspiration from Norwegian purling in order to do this style of mirror knitting. One of the advantages of this is that it's a little faster. If you can knit from left to right as fast as you can knit from right to left, then you're saving yourself the time of having to flip over your piece and reset yourself. Also, I'm so sorry if you hear Nutella crying in the background. She knows there's whipped cream, and she knows what the whipped cream bottle looks like, and she loves whipped cream, so she very much wants some. Okay, and now I finished knitting this row, and then all I have to do to turn back is just knit back the way that I typically do. That's what I've learned mirror knitting to be, and I will continue working on the InStep like this, and I'll check back with you when I've finished with that part and once Nutella has her dinner. We have now finished the white InStep portion of this stocking, and it's time to work on the heel. Now these stitches have been placed on hold for now, and what's going to happen is that I'm actually going to, hold on, let me flip it over. Now these stitches that were on hold are going to be moved to the same needle, and we're going to be working the heel flap just the same way as we did this other side. And then we're going to do the heel turn. So let me put this on a needle and get to knitting on that. And that will create, so basically we're doing the heel turn and we're setting up so that the foot and toe can be worked in the round. And we wanted that the top of the stocking is worked flat. I have an idea and a suspicion of why we're doing that, and I will tell you that when we get to the end of this pattern. So for now, let's do the heel and set up for working the foot in the round. As you can probably see, I've now worked the entirety of the heel flap. Here's where I joined the two edges together, as well as turned the heel and kind of worked this gusset. Now the instep and the heel parts are about the same length, and I am going to switch to working in the round. I'll make sure that this white stripe is also 5 inches long, just on the front instep portion. And then we're going to switch to the red to work in that stripe for the rest of the foot. But we'll once again knit all of that in the round. I just finished off the toe part of this stocking. It might be a little hard to see. We have the top of the stocking here with the open back. Then we have the heel bit in the white stripe here with some openings we have to sew shut, and then I did the toe here. Now, coming back to the part where I think the reason why they wanted you to knit the front or top part of the stocking flat is because now we want to add the designs onto the stocking. The striped stocking already looks cute, but it has you add the name of the person who the stocking's for at the top. They have an image here for Santa Claus, but I'm gonna replace that with a picture of a dog. So of course this is for Nutella, so a little relevant, I think. And then the reason why I think this pattern is from 56/57 is on top of the instep here, it has you add the year, and they only have the numbers for 5, 6, and 5, 7. We're gonna do this as 22, and I think if I just turn the 5 around, I then have the chart for 2, and I just need to duplicate that, so I don't really even have to come up with my own chart for numbers, which is quite nice. I don't duplicate stitch often, so this is also going to be a little bit of a practice for me. I also did some math because I want Nutella's name to be spaced out nicely on here, so I've marked the beginning of where I'm going to start duplicate stitching. So we are several hours later now, and all of the duplicate stitching is done on this stocking. I'm so pleased with how it turned out, and honestly, Nutella's name is the maximum number of letters that would fit on this stocking, and I'm so happy that it just so happened to work out that way. I also modified the sketch or like cross stitch pattern of the dog to match a little bit more closely to Nutella. So she's got no tail and she's got stubbier legs. So that worked out really nicely as well. And I 100% am very glad that this top part was knit flat because it made it so much easier to do the duplicate stitching. It got harder and harder actually to do it the closer I got to the heel portion, which is already closer to being stitched in the round. So I'm glad that I only had to do this little bit. And hey, look, turning the 5-5 backwards I think worked pretty well to make it 22. All that's left is I have to sew up the back of this stocking, and then of course we have to fill it with goodies for this little girl. Have you been a good girl? Okay, then let's get your stocking filled. Nutella, what did you think of today's Craftmas? I think she probably rates it a 100 out of 10. This was a really fun one to do, although definitely one of the more lengthy projects I've done so far. But it was super fun to learn how to do mirror knitting, it was good to brush up on my duplicate stitch, and most importantly, we have a very cute stocking for Nutella. Thank you again so much for watching. We are going to be continuing Craftmas the day after tomorrow with some more decorations. I hope that you'll join me then. I'll see you later. Bye!